Welcome to the January 26th pre-NFC AFC Championship weekend edition of the PFF Forecast. This is a special edition. Okay, this is going to be a great episode. We had a good piece of content last week that people liked that was not related to the championship or the divisional games. We again have a really good piece of content around what is the corner three of the NFL and what is the mid-range jumper of the NFL. And then we'll get into the championship round. We're going to get our picks for both games in. We'll pick a lock of the week, and then we'll send Eric off to Kansas City. Let's rock. All right. Excitement level, because we've been through this before. 2019, you obviously have been in the championship game as a fan for the past few years.
I was gonna say, like, you and I, so we started doing the PFF forecast started in January of 2018. So we have had an AFC title game in this podcast that did not include the Chiefs. But since we've lived here, they've been in the AFC title. They've hosted it every single year. And like that was to me like the biggest thing at the end of the Buffalo game, which was I'm not going to know what to do with my hands if like it's like Buffalo, Cincinnati, and so it feels familiar now.
Also, do you notice this lovely angle here?
Yeah, I was gonna say because like the biggest issue with the camera angle and the people in the comments, by the way, who thought it was intentional. That's my favorite thing, where it's like, can you assume any less of me or George? Like, no, we're like I haven't gotten a haircut.
We also manage now for you to be like behind me. You want to come join me here at the like top of the desk? I'm on an island. What the hell is this?
I know, literally on an island.
Also, I haven't gotten, now that I'm doing a U and looking at the camera here, and my God, do I need a haircut?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I haven't got my haircut in like 2 or 3 months, and like this idea that we put the camera on the back of my head
on purpose. Yeah.
On purpose. Like, can you assume less of us as people? I don't know. It's impossible almost.
I don't know about that. Let me say this about this championship round. Watched a lot of football. You've watched a lot of football. I am as excited about this championship round, and I know everyone was like, look, last week's game, Chiefs, Bills, that was the Super Bowl, yada, yada, yada. And we're probably not going to get a game that good. I was legitimately excited to rewatch that game on Monday night, and it was amazing the second time around as well. But it has not felt to me like there were more clear favorites, but also clear opportunities for an underdog to win, and that they have clear advantages as underdogs in certain areas. So I'm very, very excited for this round. You're going to Kansas City. You're going to be live, boots on the ground. You're going to see whether Andy Reid calls the good plays, and if he's not, you're going to let him know.
I'm going to yell, call the good plays a few times.
I'm not zero doubt that you will do that. Absolutely zero doubt that you'll do that. Before we get into the championship games, though, we've got a special topic here. Before we get into that, a reminder for everyone out there who is still looking to take advantage of all the great stuff at pff.com. You can get 25% off with the promo code FORECAST, FORECAST. If you get an elite subscription, which is just $200 for a year. I know that sounds like a lot, but you break down by month, it's not that much. And you get every single thing that PFF has to offer, grades week by week and year by year for every player, plus all the great betting tools, includes the player props tool, the best bets tool, Greenline, our betting dashboards, plus the DFS optimizer, and of course, all of PFF's premium content and fantasy tools. Or if you want to take things a little slower, the Edge subscription, which is just $40 for an entire year. So gosh, it's like less than $4 a month. Gives you all of our premium content and our fantasy tools. So go to pff.com, use promo code FORECAST, FRECAST. And if you want to share with us what you would like to see, we've gotten some really good emails from people that we've been looking at as a team as we decide what we're going to build this year and going forward. So tell us what your favorite PFF tool or piece of content that you like or enjoy by emailing us at contact, CONTACT, at pff.com. And then tell us the thing that you most wish you had from PFF, and we'll put it on the board. All right. You came up with these topics. Tell me how you did.
I've been just doing a lot of reading. We're working on some new projects. I needed
so you're not working enough.
Some fresh ideas. I needed.
What were you reading that
I was reading The Mid-Range Theory by Seth Partnow. Seth Partnow was working for The Athletic. He had previously been Milwaukee Bucks. He's currently at StatBomb. And he wrote something that I thought was really interesting, which was, and you know basketball a lot better than me, but this idea, and over the last decade, let's say, there's been obviously a lot more 3-pointers taken. The reason is trivial, right? Mm-hmm. I wonder, they've gone through the same bullshit we've had to go through, right?
Yeah, and I think the argument actually, here's the interesting thing about it. In the NBA, no one is disputing that threes, are more efficient than mid-range jumpers.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a few people that maybe still don't get it, but that number is way lower. In the NFL, it's interesting because the math isn't as simple, right?
Well,
when you tell someone, hey, 7 is more than twice 3, and they go, okay, yeah, but a field goal is a sure thing, and there's no chance you're scoring a touchdown, and trying to explain to them how the probabilities need to be for that math to make sense is way harder than hey, someone shoots close to the same percentage they do from 3 as they do from mid-range, and they get 1 more point. They get 50% more points.
Yeah,
that math is easier.
Well, the number is certainly higher for the in-game decision processes. The sample size is so much lower, and we're still going through the rigmarole with Brandon Staley and people his recklessness caused them a playoff spot. And I'm like, well, was he reckless the first Chiefs game and the first Browns game where they were even in that position to be in the playoffs? And but so anyway, so he goes through and he shows the shot charts, and actually Goldsberry, his book
Kurt.
as well.
Yeah.
Kurt, I've been looking at his book, and they're kind of the same story. It's a lot of fun to read those.
Really cool data viz.
Yeah, and the thing that that Seth talked about, which I thought was really interesting, which was this evolution in basketball didn't change the mid-range game so much as it separated players into elite players and not elite players. Mm-hmm. So, Bruce Bowen was corner 3 D and 3 guy before it was cool, and he was kind of a shitty offensive player, but at least he could knock that down. Yeah. And then the idea being, any player can kind of knock that down, right? Brooke Lopez can go learn how to shoot a 3, and now, he's a guy that can protect the rim, but he can shoot a 3 on offense, right? And he doesn't get all clogged up in the post and stuff. But there are still instances where you need to be able to shoot a mid-range shot, right? End of shot clock, and you want the only guys worth taking those shots are the elite of the elite that can make shots that are contested. They can do all those things that make that shot better than. Again, when the situation dictates, you want your elite player to shoot the mid-range shot if he has to.
Yeah, the Warriors, when they had Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, wow, they're actually not as 3 happy as they were. And the reason for that is that Kevin Durant is absurdly efficient, regardless of where you put him on the floor.
So I looked at, and again, I'm just thinking.
So the idea here is that we're going to identify both the efficient thing and the inefficient thing, or are you saying that they're just going to be counterparts?
Because the issue is the efficient thing is what you can select for when you've done all the other things right.
Okay.
Right. So if you break a player down off the dribble and you get into the lane and a guy's wide open for 3 in the corner, it does matter, but it doesn't really matter if that player's an elite player or he's an okay player.
Right.
The thing that set that player up is more valuable than the corner 3, right? Mm-hmm. And And if you're not successful doing all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
You're not successful breaking everybody down off
Easy
the
white
dribble.
chocolate.
Yeah. You're not successful breaking everybody down off the dribble, and you have to take an inefficient shot. You want your best players doing that, right?
Right.
And so I thought, and again, this is very simple, but I actually looked at play action / RPO passes as being like this corner three.
Okay.
Right? So the ability to be able to run play action and RPOs is bestowed upon you by being in a neutral game situation, meaning either your defense has played well in that game or your offense has played well in that game. You're in a situation, and this was always like the point about why we faded certain teams some years, because we're like, well, their schedule is a lot harder. So all the easy buttons are going to be able to smash.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be able to smash them this year, right? And all this stuff. And non-play action passes are bestowed upon you when you don't get those privileges, right? And I just looked at usage rates. It's kind of interesting. So, and I looked at every single quarterback who has had a season with 3.75 WAR or better.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is a elite quarterback. So let me list the names here: Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Brett Favre, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers. Eli had a really good 2011 year. Ben Roethlisberger, Carson Palmer had an MVP year. Andrew Luck, Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. So I'm calling those guys elite guys.
Okay.
And again, we're looking at evolutions in the game. So the evolution of, less mid-range baskets are taken in basketball, but the ones that are taken predominantly by the elite players.
Yeah.
So since 2014, in 2014, basically non-elite players took 63% of their dropbacks as basically like non-play action. Elite players in 2014 took 72% of them. So they were able, they were the ones taking the majority of those. And this is on early downs. We could go back because that's when you have a choice. So these are early down passes. The elite players took the majority of the share of the sort of mid-range shots in football. As time has evolved, so now 2021, only 57% of the passes thrown by non-elite quarterbacks are without play action or RPO. It's gone down for elite quarterbacks too, but it's 62% still. So there's a 5% difference in basically like the elite quarterbacks essentially still being able to and willing and opting into in many cases and being good at them, these passes that they don't need help with, basically. Do you think,
sorry to cut you off there, but do you think that is because elite quarterbacks are trusted in situations where it's just like, look, it's like, Jimmy G, I'm not going to, this is a pro Jimmy G podcast.
I'm not going to besmirch Jimmy G.
Yeah, I'm not going to besmirch Jimmy G. So let me use a different example, Carson Wentz. It's like, hey man, I'm just not going to ask Carson Wentz to do this. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and if you restrict it down to just guys who have been elite over, like super elite over the last, so I even broke it down further to Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, Luck, Mahomes, Wilson, Watson, just those guys. 58% in 2021 of passes by those players are of the non-play action variety. 63. So again, there's that 5 percentage point difference between the elite guys and the non-elite guys. So that to me is what it is, right? Like you look and say, okay, why do we always? And I have not put Josh Allen in here, even though Josh Allen does deserve to be in there. I think at some point, but I don't think one player would skew the numbers that much. The idea again being like why are some quarterbacks elite and why are some not, right? Why are there players able to be in championship rounds, and why are there players like Jimmy G, right, who is a good player when the situation gives rise? Like last year, the 49ers, everybody on that team was injured, including him. Yeah. So like what prayer did he have? Now, if you put Patrick Mahomes in that situation, he's probably going to do well. Right? He might not win 12 games, but he's going to do better than Jimmy G is. But then whenever
he's not hurt,
when everything goes well, like that's like Ryan Anderson getting like an $80 million deal. Like when everything goes well, the guy's raining threes, right? And he's making millions of dollars.
Ryan Anderson.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And like that was the example in in the book, and it was like
Houston Rocket, great.
Exactly. But somebody who, if you actually made him you actually gave him the ball when the shot clock was draining down, he was going to suck. And I think that, again, I thought that was an interesting topic because, again, like everybody's like, it's just as good to have a Jimmy G as a Patrick Mahomes. It's like, well, no, you also.
Who said that, by the way? I don't think anyone said that.
I think there are people who and I said this in a tweet. I said, just because an unlikely thing happened doesn't mean the unlikely thing that you want to have happen is going to happen, right? So people use the Jimmy G thing and the Niners defense thing as a reason to build your team a certain way. And like, oh, you can't, like, look, you don't need to go after Mahomes, which, like, I think most of the time you do have to go after a Mahomes.
Look, I hate to break this to everyone that's saying that, but the Niners literally went after a Mahomes.
Yeah. It's
that's bananas. The slander on Jimmy G is interesting because the dude is hurt. He's got a sprained shoulder and a torn ligament. But that's kind of part of it, not to be like, the guy that harps on like durability, but in the NFL, like that's important, right? And Patrick Mahomes had that one stretch where he did have the ankle injury and it was a real issue for him, and he did not play as well.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of part of it is when people are caving around you, are you still able to sustain?
Also, no one is engineering defenses to stop the corner three, and no one is engineering defenses to stop Jimmy G. People have spent years engineering defenses to stop Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes type quarterbacks. And that's another aspect of it too, like in addition to injuries and stuff like that. But it's just, again, like how many bullets can you take? Right. And to be able to just run a normal pass play efficiently all the time, like that's the mark of being elite. Right. And needing your hand held by circumstances is sort of a measure of not being so.
If you were okay, so I'll ask you one question here around that. If you're running a team or coaching a team, how do you leverage this knowledge to make you better? Like, is it more deep than just run more play action?
Well, no, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I think I would build a system of KPIs where I would measure how much help I had to give to the players. So, like, take a corner, like, even like take like your defensive ends, right? Like, if you paid Frank Clark all this money and you have to run stunts all the time, right? I showed an article last week that stunts make pressure 7 percentage points more likely. If you have to run stunts all the time, and he's showing up well. Like the sack against Garoppolo in the Super Bowl to win the game was on a stunt, right? Everybody gives Frank Clark a ton of credit, but that was after 4.5 seconds.
Right.
If you find yourself having to build easy buttons for your elite players, you got to get out of those elite players, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's also an aspect. And again, this is just, I'm going to say Josh Allen because I mean Josh Allen, but it's also true about Mahomes and some of these other guys. Some seasons you don't use your good stuff during the middle of the season because you don't have to, right? Like there's a reason why teams like, Brady would always start 2-2 every year. They lose to Detroit, they lose to the Dolphins, and it's like, they don't have to pull, like they can win games even without giving themselves a chance. And maybe there's some testing ground going on, right? Whereas with other teams like take Tennessee, like they have to play the Tannehill, the corner three stuff all the time. And again, if I were running a team, I would measure how often I felt I needed or we had to hit these KPIs to think we were supposed to be successful, right? And I would adjust for them, right? So if I'm the Niners, right? Niners are very efficient offense. But you look at the KPIs. In the passing game, they face one of the heaviest boxes in football. They run motion more than everybody else. They run, I believe, trick looks. LA and San Francisco, 2 highest teams in the NFL in running trick looks this year. Or trick plays, a combination of those. So, like, you're doing really well, but the question is like, how sustainable is that? If we start to play, if our defense gets injured, and we're in a lot of situations where we can't run that stuff, then you're going to predictably be bad, right? So like, I think that those that's what I would do to sort of make sure that I properly understood how good my team was during the course of a season.
Okay, so you actually did mention my corner three. I took a similar approach to you. I thought we would have radically different approaches. The one thing that I did, though, was I thought about the corner three and the mid-range jumper in football as separate and picked the thing that I thought was, but I said, okay, this is the thing that I think is the corner three, and then this is the thing that I think is the mid-range jumper, and they weren't like the, countered one another, basically.
Yeah, they weren't complements of each other.
Yeah, exactly.
They weren't a choice that a team made.
So let me start with, I'm actually going to start with what I think the mid-range jumper is. And I think this one is predictable and easy. Everyone that's listening to this podcast could probably guess what I'm going to say here. But this is running on second and long. And it's one of those things where I think of it similar to the mid-range jumper because of the advocates for mid-range jumper still and the advocates for running on second and long still, I feel like are similarly sparse, but also like their arguments are ridiculous. Where, it's like, no, like, we have to establish the run. No, like I can't cheapen the sport of basketball. The beauty of the mid-range jumper.
I want to be able to shoot the mid-range jumper on my own free will. I want to impose my will. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it is interesting because what you hear in basketball around why they don't like, the threes that are raining down is that it's not as pretty.
Yeah.
And like there's something artful to the mid-range jumper, which is interesting because in football, you hear that kind of like same thing with the run game. So that was my mid-range jumper. My corner three is motion. And so similarly to you, so I looked in 2015. I went what I thought was 5 years ago. It turns out it's more than 5 years ago. It's 2015, but be easy on me. Be easy on me. So this was crazy. So in 2015, the team that ran the most motion had 406 plays of motion. The average team ran 270. In 2021, the year of our Lord, the Chiefs ran the most plays with motion. They had 66 plays with motion. The average team ran almost 500. Now, that is a good thing, right? Teams are leveraging it more. What I found and why I picked motion as the corner three was that it's a schematic thing that applied even to a bad offense will make your offense better. And what I mean by that is even if you're going to run the ball, run it with motion because that makes it way more efficient. If you're going to pass the ball, pass with motion. It makes it more efficient. There isn't a scenario where it doesn't make it your team more efficient. And it's similar to the corner three where are you a shitty team? Yes. Okay. Well then shoot corner threes. Yeah. Are you a good team? Okay, good. Get Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the bad example. Like Klay Thompson. It's like, would I rather have Klay Thompson shooting a corner three than anyone else? Yes, because that's absolutely money.
Yeah.
And I think your way of attacking it, which was like good players can do the bad things more frequently, was really cool and interesting. Yeah. I didn't approach it that way. I kind of thought of it as like, this is something that even if I have Trent Williams, put him in motion. That's fucking awesome. And
well, the reason I thought of doing this problem was because they pointed out that Steph Curry doesn't shoot that many corner threes because it's like, no, that's where like the scrubs go to get their points. Right. Like I'm here to.
That is interesting because for Steph Curry, how does Steph Curry play the game of basketball? Steph Curry plays a beautiful game of basketball despite shooting so many threes.
Yeah.
He's a ball handler. The guy shoots off the dribble all the time. The corner, because of like geometrically where it is, that's a place where you put people who aren't going to do that, It's
but that's like the tight end in play action too. It's just like a lot of tight ends. There's only like 5 tight ends in all of football that can get open by themselves.
Right.
Everybody else is, and that's was always the knock on Mark Andrews. I think we were wrong about him because it, as it would happen, he can get open by himself. But it's like the layups that they get from just these, not to mix analogies, but like the play action stuff. That's where like the Jonnu Smiths and like the kind of crappy the Jared Cooks and those crappy tight ends get open.
At least narrow the scope to like tight ends that play.
Yeah. But like your point, and like I thought back to myself, I'm like, look, I don't have the Rolodex the same way I do in football for basketball, but I don't remember Michael Jordan shooting a corner three.
Right.
And I don't think LeBron shoots that many corner threes.
No.
It's like it is where you sort of, and I think the thing with 2nd and 10 runs, I agree with it in that like the efficiency just isn't there and people believe it's beautiful. I think that the only difference between my analogy and yours is that you're never forced to do a 2nd and 10 run.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like oftentimes you are, when the shot clock's going down or whatever, you're forced to take an inefficient shot and you want your best player to do it. And in football, you're forced in many cases to run a pass where it's just you and you can't run play action. You can't do you can do motion, but you can't do some of the hacks that make passing easier. And that's where you see and that's why for the most part, and I think Kyle Shanahan's the exception that proves the rule, then unless you have a brilliant offensive mind right next to you, it's going to be the Mahomeses, the Allens, the Burrows. And like, let's be honest, Stafford's proven this year that he, at least in his ceiling, can be that kind of quarterback. And so, and it's why you look at like if I think it's like the 50 of the 55 quarterbacks who've won a Super Bowl, or a double counting, like 45 of them are going to make the Hall of Fame. That's why, right? Like once by this time of year, you have to be impervious.
Yeah.
And that I think is like with Chris Paul or something like that, where it's like the reason he's still freaking here is because you can throw kind of everything at him and he's still going to be able to score enough for you to win basketball games. And I think the analogy is not perfect in football, but I do think it's interesting to think that way, because I thought Seth did a really good job in the book of explaining the special place that the mid-range has now, as opposed to just like people stop shooting it. It's like, it still needs to be shot, but you want to only shoot, you want to reserve it for shots for the great players.
Yeah, it was good. That was a really cool discussion. I appreciate you bringing it up. We're going to get to the games. And before we do, just want to remind you all that you're traveling, actually, right?
Yep.
Are you bringing your lawnmower to Kansas City?
That's a personal question, but yeah, I mean,
you never know. You could be stranded out there. You could miss your flight. You could be out there for a while. I was reminded of the importance of the lawnmower in travel when the report came out that John Schoen, the GM for the Giants now, was flown out in the middle seat of the back row of an airplane. And nothing's worse than being cramped in the hot, sticky disgustingness of the back row.
Have I told you about my flight to Vancouver?
Hold that thought for a second.
Okay.
Nothing worse than being crammed in the middle seat if you have not leveraged the Lawnmower 4.0 recently. It's a nightmare. So don't go through that hellscape. Go to manscaped.com, use promo code PFF, and get free shipping plus 20% off on the Performance Package 4.0, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0 and the Ultra Premium Body Wash. The Lawnmower 4.0 is what I use. I travel with it. You don't need to bring a charger because it stays charged, and that's a beautiful thing as well. Your story on Vancouver, sir.
I mean, I was once put in the back, like on my first ever academic conference, backseat flight to Vancouver, Minneapolis, Vancouver, about 3 hours. Person next to me reading a newspaper, but like, you know how they splay it over everybody.
Yeah, you got to let them know. Yeah.
Sung to himself the whole plane trip.
No,
like sung and like not like a.
What was he singing?
And it was in a different language. I didn't know.
Okay.
And it wasn't like one of these.
So it wasn't like Sweet
but
Caroline.
it was like a relatively loud sing.
Were you at least along with the other people on the flight laughing at him?
I tried to like sneak a look at other people like.
Oh, I would have just started singing along.
Okay, but I didn't know the language. Like
I'll just make it up.
Okay.
Just fucking go with it. Anyways, manscaped.com, promo code PFF.
Manscaped.com. Just go with it.
Just go with it. All right. The 3:00 game. This is on CBS. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. Bengals, Chiefs. Chiefs are a 7-point favorite. Total is 54.5. The Bengals are plus 268 on the money line. And Where would you like to start with this game?
Well, let's start with the total.
Okay.
54.5. If you look at Pinnacle, it's 54 juiced over. When they first met, I believe the total was in the low 50s, so it's gone up a little bit.
Yeah, when they first met, which was week 17, final score of that game, 34-31. Total was 51.
Yeah.
And in that game, Kansas City was a 3.5-point underdog at home.
Yeah, the Bengals were 3.5-point underdogs.
Cincinnati.
At home. Yeah, Cincinnati won outright. So our model likes Cincinnati that game. I think it likes them this game. In fact, earlier this week, it was Chiefs -7, -115. At least on Pinnacle right now, you're basically getting even odds on both plus and -7. So there has been some resistance on the Bengals. I do think that has some legs to it. It's not teasable just because there's nothing to tease it with. Niners are plus 3.5, and you don't tease totals. The thing I want to focus on is what we talked about in the live watch along on Sunday, which is the Chiefs play games that in a lot of cases play to the under. They haven't gone under in quite a few weeks, and our friend Greg Rosenthal of the NFL Network talked about when they haven't played like a Big Ben type quarterback, they've gotten shredded in recent weeks. But against Buffalo, that game was going to go under. Like people look at the final score and are like, "Holy, wow." But that game was going to go under if they get the stop on the 4th and 13, the first Gabriel Davis touchdown in the last 2 minutes of the game. And I think that's a similar straight in this game. When you look at this, Kansas City, Mahomes doesn't attempt balls over 20 yards downfield anymore because he can't. But they're super efficient at sort of moving the ball down the field really, really slowly.
Yeah. The first game this season that he has not attempted to throw 20-plus yards downfield was the game against the Bills. If you had shown someone his stats and that final score, you could have gotten remarkable odds on that fact that he had thrown passes over 20 yards and that he had completed them. He did not. 90% of his throws were on target in that game. It was a flawless game they won't let me throw deep. I mean, that secondary, those safeties, they're number one graded secondary in the league for a reason. The best safety tandem in the league the Bills have. Ironically, neither of them made the Pro Bowl, which I thought was really funny.
Probably for the good now after that game.
And but he was able to execute so well underneath, and that was clearly a strategy that they had. In fact, I know we don't want to redux this game again, but going back to the series where they had 13 seconds left, that was a brilliant. Everyone's talking about how brilliant it was from the Chiefs' perspective, and how Travis Kelce orchestrated the whole thing. That was also a disaster from the Bills' perspective. But I wonder how much of the fact that they just played off was this, we've been drilled to keep them from going over the top. And I thought it was really instructive around how the Chiefs have changed, and that the way they won that game was by getting passes underneath and running after the catch all the way up to the point where they had only 13 seconds left.
Yeah, exactly. And the Tyreek Hill, there was a great on the QB school with JT O'Sullivan. He like paused that Tyreek Hill touchdown a few times. It was just like, this play's well covered. This play's well covered. This ended up in a touchdown. I don't know how. It's sort of like, and Mahomes, good on him for being extremely patient. And even in the overtime drive, the crosser to McCole Hardman where there was no that was a Chiefs secondary receiver stepping up. But to the point of the betting this with the under, right? And you're looking sort of like at volume in this game, right? You want to think about volume in this game. To me, I think this plays more under than the last game. The reason being is it's the Chiefs got Buffalo to a lot of third downs in that game and a lot of fourth downs in that game. And like, to me, the conversions on third and fourth down are very random, and they're more random when a quarterback Joe Burrow, who we love, highest graded quarterback, PFF, highest yards per attempt, highest completion percentage in football so far this year in the regular season, take sacks. And the Cincinnati-Tennessee game kind of had the same game plan. It was, the Bengals are a good enough offense, no matter what, to move the ball some, for sure, against anybody, right? So what they were doing against Tennessee was they would get some good offense going, right? And it's exactly, we talk about crossing the street a bunch of times. They get to the other team's 40 and Joe Burrow would take a sack.
Yep.
And then you got a punt. And punts from the 50 are magical for unders, right?
Yeah.
Because even if the Chiefs score with it, it's going to take them 8 minutes to do so in all likelihood, right? And so, and then additionally, what's going to be a point of emphasis for Kansas City after last week's game where you had Gabriel Davis, a 70-yard touchdown?
Screwed Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis and Jamar Chase combined have turned in Hall of Fame performances against the Cincinnati.
But they were repeatable, right? The Jamar Chase catch and run for the first touchdown for Cincinnati. That's just guys not being able to be in position to make tackles. The second Jamar Chase touchdown, that's having Daniel Sorensen in cover 2, right? That's you can't have that. The Gabriel Davis touchdown against Buffalo, that's having Matthew out. It looks like Matthew and Rashad Fenton, who was the starter over Mike Hughes, who I probably has to retire after that Gabriel Davis touchdown where he
if he's able to physically play after that.
And I'm not saying the Chiefs are a great defense. I'm certainly not. And they've had their moments, but I'm just saying I think there's a better chance that we just get expected performance out of them, which is get pressure on the quarterback. Like Chris Jones did nothing the other day, right? Tackle the players who are in front of you and don't let the thing get over your head. And that's what they were doing for that 8-week stretch where their defense was performing really well. And they got away from it against Cincinnati. They got away from it against Denver. And, for the most part, they have to get back to that. And I think at least in this game, I don't really like the Chiefs -7. I think that's going to be a grind. I think Burrow is a really, he's a quarterback that I really don't like betting against moving forward, especially with big numbers like this. But I do think under is the right play in this game.
Yeah, I can get on board with under 54.5, certainly. I want to talk a little bit about Cincinnati +7. So the question, I think, is we saw the Bengals get destroyed on the offensive line. Now, just to be really clear, I mentioned this on Sunday. I'm going to mention it again. Is that the players that were getting killed on the offensive line were not tackles. This was not oh my God, if you had Penei Sewell at tackle, they would have been so much better. No, if you had Penei Sewell at guard, you might have been better. And if you take an offensive guard in the top 10 of the NFL draft, you should be fired. Unless he's Quentin Nelson. And even then, I don't know. So the issue there is that you have Chris Jones. Now, what's really interesting is that in the matchup in Cincinnati, Chris Jones did not play particularly well in that game, did not wreak havoc in that game. But based on what I have seen recently of the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, which is perhaps the worst performance ever by a guard, produced by Hakeem Adeniji, poor guy, who on the season, there are 82 guards we've graded. He has the 78th best grade in the NFL at 47.5. He got torched. And the rest of the interior line did not play particularly well either in that game. That is the worry. That is the really big mismatch that you go, okay, if Joe Burrow is not getting rid of the ball quickly, which he has not been doing, this is how they kind of eat up that game. But then I look across the rest of the board, and they are not going to be able to cover Jamar Chase. They are not going to be able to stop him from catching short passes and being efficient there with the ball after the catch. So even though that's a concern for me, I still think, based on especially what you said around the Chiefs offense and what we saw with the Chiefs offense, I'm playing the Bengals +7. I think 7, that number, I would have made it 6.5, 6. The fact that you're getting 7.
And that's where it opened, by the way. Like that, You're not wrong there. Chris Jones in the last 3 games has 5 total pressures. He had 6 and 2 sacks in the first game in the matchup against the Bengals.
Is he hurt in any way?
Here's some insider info. Okay. Chris Jones needed 1 sack to get over 10 and to get $1 million bonus, and he didn't get that against Denver in Week 18, and legit to the point where somebody that I know was like that was a sticking point, and why he was out there in the end of that silly Pittsburgh game that they won in the regular season by $1 million. And when Pittsburgh started running, he's like, I'm out. And obviously postseason sacks don't count.
Right.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So that could be it, right? That and Chris Jones. I mean, there's a reason why the Chiefs franchise tagged him the year that DeForest Buckner got a bigger deal than he did, and it took the Chiefs a while, and they had to get creative. Like, and no one wanted to trade a first-round pick for Chris Jones, and everybody wanted to trade a first-round pick for DeForest Buckner. Yada yada yada. There are Chris Jones, and by the way, from I believe it was like week 8 to week 17, Chris Jones led the entire NFL in pressures from the interior. Linebackers, edges, interiors. He led the league in pressures, right? Like, so he's a good football player, but it's inconsistent, right? And there are these extraneous things that, like, I think go to explain. He'll want to have a 3-sack game in a an effort like this, but I think this goes to explain some of the issues, inconsistencies he's had.
Yeah, and it's interesting because. So in the Tennessee game, it was, they were winning. They did a ton of simulated pressures and all this stuff. But Joe Burrow was actually good against that. And Joe Burrow has the highest grade in the NFL when facing a blitz. The Chiefs since week 10 have blitzed at a bottom 10 rate, about 23% of the time. It's not been something that they're relying on. So I don't expect that to happen. I think what you would be expecting here is exactly what you said, is like, if you're not going to bet the Bengals, you've got to think that Jamar Chase is going to get shut down.
Yes.
Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, like Tyler Boyd, like that group is getting shut down because this is an offense that even with Joe Burrow taking sacks, they have enough talent to scrape together some points, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they're winning by, if they're winning by 7 or by more than 7, they're really stifling them, and that means you're wiping out all of those players. So I think obviously solid. I mean, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, both top 10 graded receivers this year.
Yeah, exactly. And the Chiefs historically, since Spags has taken over, a top 5 team in terms of not allowing yards to wide receivers, right? And they were second, I believe, since 2019. Before the Cincinnati game, and now this year they've been giving up yards to wide receivers. In fact, obviously the 200 to Gabriel Davis. It is an interesting mark, though, that it wasn't Diggs last week. It was Gabriel Davis, and I think that the problem.
But T. Higgins is capable.
That's the thing. I think the problem with the Bengals is that Higgins and Boyd are both good football players, and you risk that. So I do think I agree.
Let me tell you the teams that Kansas City has beaten by more than 7 points.
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
No, it's not good.
The Pittsburgh Steelers twice. The Denver Broncos twice. The Broncos once. Sorry. The Oakland, now Las Vegas Raiders twice. That's what I meant. They played the Packers with Jordan Love. They beat them by 6.
The Raiders, noticeably, by the way, no wide receivers.
No wide receivers, and play cover 3 literally the whole freaking time. They are a nightmare. The New York Giants with Daniel Jones, they beat them by 3. They beat the Washington football team by more than 7. They beat Philly by more than 7. And that they beat the Cardinals in the preseason by 7. Exactly. So, like, the point being is that this is, unless you're the Raiders or the Broncos, which these teams are not, or the Steelers, obviously, which these teams are not, like, a close game is what you should expect here. Really no, injuries on the Bengals side that you're particularly worried about. It looks like Tyrann Mathieu is going to play.
Rashad Fenton is going to come back.
Fenton is going to come back.
Instead of Mike Hughes, yeah.
So, like, both teams are pretty healthy here. Any props that you like?
I mean, the old reliables, but yeah. So in this game, let me
give you a couple
subset this down here.
I really like Joe Burrow once again over rushing yards. I know those can be hard to find, but 8.5 is the line that we have here on the PFF Player Props tool. We show about 6.4% edge over what you'd need to break even, based on what we have the chances of that happening at, which I will take every single day. 59% chance that it covers, based on our model. 52%.
Here's my favorite
what you need to break even. But hold on, real quick. Joe Burrow has not had to run the ball of late. Not against Tennessee.
Well, he had to, but he didn't.
Right. Not against the Raiders. Last time he played the Chiefs, he had 10 rushing yards. He's gone over 10 in the 3 games at the end of the season that he played. In this game, where I expect him to be down, I think he's going to have to make a few plays with his feet.
I like that one. Similar thing. I like Jamar Chase over 87.5 yards minus 115. I also like, and this is going to dagger me, but I also like Patrick Mahomes under 29.5 rushing yards at minus 119.
After that Patrick Vick performance?
Well, most of it came on the one run, right?
Yeah.
And after that, he kind of found his way.
69
we did see Trey Hendrickson come off last week with a shoulder. He did come back in, but no Larry Ogunjobi.
You really want to go under that on Mahomes? I'll go over. Friendly bet?
Friendly bet.
All right. But by friendly
Skyline Chili.
By friendly bet, I mean you're taking me out to dinner.
Yeah. Okay.
15th time.
Let's do this 15th time.
Another one that I like, Travis Kelce over 6.5 receptions. So had 8 against the Bills, 5 against the Steelers, 4 against the Broncos. Did not
he had a big drop in the game at Paul Brown.
Has not had like a ton of really big catch games. But in this game where you expect the Bengals to do the same thing, where it's like keep everything in front of them, the linebackers for the Bengals are not a particularly strong group. He had a kind of a weak game against the Bengals in week 17. I want to say he had 5 catches for like 26 yards or something. And so in this game, in a really big spot, have Travis Kelce over. It's interesting. This year, he is just 4-13 on the over.
Kelce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kelce's had an interesting year. I think Kelce is very emblematic of this current Chiefs team, which is kind of what we talked about at the beginning. Like this team is just trying to get to 12 wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going all balls to the wall on every single game. Bills were like that too, right? Bills this season struggled in a lot of games, but ultimately, as we saw on Sunday, they're a formidable team.
Before we get to the nightcap, San Francisco, Los Angeles, if you would like, and I think you probably would like to place a little wager on some of these games, you should head to DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner, unofficial sports betting partner of the NFL. They're celebrating huge odds for new customers. If you use promo code PFF, you can get 56-1 odds. Why? Because it's Super Bowl 56. On any team, bet just $5, get $280 in free bets if your team wins. If a sportsbook isn't available in your state, that's okay too. DraftKings Daily Fantasy is legal everywhere. Huge cash prizes there, and they're giving all new customers a free shot at $1 million when they sign up. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Bet just $5. Win $280 in free bets if they win. Promo code PFF. 56-1 odds. Go make it happen. You must be 21 or older in New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. New customers, the ones that are eligible, minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay. A rematch in both of these games. This rematch is between divisional teams. The San Francisco 49ers covered both times, won both times this year against the Rams, are 6-0 in their last 6 against the Rams. In their last 7, they're 6-1 against the spread. Jimmy Garoppolo, 74 PFF grade. In his last 4 games, though, he has 10 turnover-worthy plays, just 2 big-time throws. The slander on Jimmy has to stop.
You just did it, though.
Slander on Jimmy has to stop. Here's the thing. I was listening to Kyle Shanahan today, and Kyle Shanahan made a really good point. Jimmy is so good. He makes so many good reads that he throws more passes that are likely to be intercepted.
That's exactly what I said. Jimmy.
It is a good point, though, in that, and this was one of the stats that I was going to bring up around this game. When the Niners have played the Rams, everyone is talking about the run game. Okay. The Niners, when they played the Rams, have killed them with the pass. They have by far the best EPA per pass play of any team that has faced the Rams this season. By far.
Do you want?
And where they are doing it is over the middle of the field. Jimmy G throws the ball over the middle of the field. Now, that's why he throws more interceptions. It is like, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's substantially higher chance of getting a ball intercepted when you throw it over the middle.
Yeah. I mean, look, when Jimmy G took the Niners to the Super Bowl in 2019, he had 15 big-time throws and 22 turnover-worthy plays. This year, it's a little bit more pronounced, 11 big-time throws, 27 turnover-worthy plays.
It's brutal. The only person that has more turnover-worthy plays than him, I believe, is Ben Roethlisberger and Zach Wilson.
Yeah. But, like, he doesn't take, again, I think the difference between him and other quarterbacks who are considered of his ilk is that he will throw what is called. And that is why when it works, he's an 8 yards per attempt guy.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's a big thing in both 9 yards per attempt in both 9.5 or more, both games against the Rams. And here's a little bit of a reason why. And you look at our guy Timo Risky tweeted out sort of like the passing maps, and like the middle of the field is where the Rams give up plays, and the middle of the field is where the Niners make plays. But here's something that I sort of like piece together, because I'm trying to just, this is why Shanahan kills the Rams defense. The Niners run the ball second most in the NFL on early downs, but they don't face one of the heavier boxes. They run motion more, depending upon how you look at it. Like, I think early downs, early in games, are first or second in motion. The Rams disguise their coverage more than any team in the league, and they do it 9 percentage points more if you look at all downs than anybody in the NFL during the regular season. On early downs, they disguise their coverage 43% of the time against all non-49er teams. It was 29.9 against the Niners, meaning Shanahan's motion mitigates it makes it so that the Rams aren't comfortable running their own motion. And who do the Rams have out now? The Rams have Jordan Fuller out. Taylor Rapp might play, but he was out last week. They have, and their backup safeties played really well the last 2 games. But like, do we expect them to play really well moving forward? Like, I don't know. That's the formula. That's the formula to beat the Rams defensively. Now, the question becomes the other side of the ball.
The other side of the ball.
And that's where the Niners, when they've been good, that's why they've been good, is that their defense stayed healthy.
Yeah. So, by the way, I forgot to mention, it's 3.5 is the spread. The Niners are 3.5 point underdogs in this game. When they played in Week 18 at SoFi, the Niners were also 3.5 point underdogs, which I think is interesting, because I would say we've learned a little bit more about the Niners so far, but the market doesn't feel that way. The Buccaneers win by the Rams, it was impressive, and Matt Stafford was awesome. But it was, I don't want to say predictable. This is not me trying to bag on Matt Stafford in any way, shape, or form. The Bucs did what Matt Stafford wanted them to do. He is the 4th highest graded quarterback against the blitz. And the Bucs, who are an incredibly blitz-heavy team, decided not to change what they did. They blitzed Matt Stafford as much as he has been blitzed all year, and he absolutely eviscerated them, including the last play to Cooper Kupp, which was against the blitz, which he just nailed on an amazing throw that ended the game. The 49ers, since Week 10, have blitzed 14% of the time. By comparison, the Bucs blitz 44% of the time. And they are still getting pressure. They have the highest quick pressure rate, the most sacks without a blitz, highest sack rate of teams that are not blitzing at a top 5 rate. And that sets up really well against the Rams. I think that's why defensively the Niners are a great matchup, because they are able to rush with 4 and still play defense on the back end with Fred Warner, who came back from injury and was amazing, was the highest graded defender last week. That was a real concern. Joey Bosa has a 91 PFF grade in the postseason, a 90 PFF grade so far this year. And here's the other thing. It's not just Nick Bosa. Eric Armstead has been amazing. 17th highest graded defensive interior player, 8th in pass rush grade among defensive interior players. Like, that's really freaking good.
Eric Armstead's a man, and like he absolutely ate up a Packers offensive line. That's not great. What's the injury status on Whitworth? Does it matter? Is Joseph Noteboom just as good?
Just as good. Joseph Noteboom was amazing in that game. I believe Whitworth is going to come back. Trent Williams did not practice today, but is optimistic that he will play. I think he's going to play. Now, you should be concerned about that because Trent Williams is a mobile guy. And what they do with Trent Williams is get him out. They put him in motion in that, game last week.
Williams did not play in the last matchup between the two teams, and the backup gave up a sack that made the Niners punt, but then they got the 3 and out before the Jimmy G drive, the epic Jimmy G drive to put it into overtime.
Can I tell you my biggest worry is, though?
Okay.
So as I was doing a deep dive on this game, I noticed something really interesting. Aaron Donald, the best player in the NFL, has a 93 pass rush grade against all non-49er teams this year. He has a 62 pass rush grade against the 49ers. I do not want to bet on Aaron Donald not having a great game.
Yeah.
Now, it should be noted that the 49ers do have, they have one of the best supporting casts in the NFL. And Alex Mack has been good. Like, Tomlinson has been good. Interestingly, Daniel Brunskill has not been, but he has played some of his best games against the Rams. So, maybe there is something to that. But, Von Miller off the edge against Tom Compton is worrisome, even though Tom Compton has a 82 PFF grade. That is concerning. So I don't know that you need Aaron Donald to have a bad game to cover this, but that's what has happened in the past too. And so, for that reason, I'd be a little concerned.
I mean, the Niners have won these games outright. They have.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I think, to me, and you're starting to see a little bit of movement here back towards the Niners. It had gotten closer to minus 110 on both sides, but now I think you're seeing more support for San Francisco. Total on the game 46. It looks like under is getting some love. I kind of
like over, man.
I do think the Niners are going to have success offensively. And, when you look at Elijah Mitchell, he has not gotten going. Elijah Mitchell, they've stuck with him. If you look at he's gotten 20 or more carries 80% of the time he plays. Mm-hmm. And so they stick with him. It's I think that they do it so that the stuff to Kittle, the stuff to Juszczyk, the stuff to Samuel especially works. I'm interested, and I think that the other reason why I think that the Rams defense struggles against the Niners is there isn't the stationary player for Ramsey to go up against, right? So the Packers, last season, for example, Devontae Adams is the number one wide receiver, and he plays, generally speaking, a traditional number one wide receiver role. So Ramsey, it's trivial that he'll guard him. Mike Evans is the same thing, and all of Mike Evans got over the top of Jalen Ramsey. But that one makes a lot of sense.
But Debo's all over the place.
Debo's all over the place, and he's in the backfield, and you would hate if you were Raheem Morris to say, Ramsey, you're shadowing Debo everywhere.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
And then for them to put him in the backfield and for your best corner to now be linebacker all game. And so do they put him on Ayuk? Because Jawan Jennings has had a damn good season at the end of the season. And then
honestly, I'd put him on George Kittle.
I would, yeah. But then Ayuk, I don't think anybody on the Rams can cover Ayuk.
I agree.
Other than Ramsey.
I agree. I would make Ayuk beat me.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that we talked about with the AFC side was the thing that Buffalo lacked was a player who could shut down a great player. Buffalo's defense was very even. And I think when you look at San Francisco's defense, that's a similar thing. The San Francisco defense does not have a secondary player where you say, that's our ace. That guy's going to shut down Cooper Kupp. And I do think that that's the one leak in the Niners defense. It was similar to the Buffalo leak against the Chiefs and vice versa. The Ramsey thing, but having an offense that's as sort of weird as the Niners are and as motion ridden as the Niners are, it takes what Ramsey can do and just limits it a little bit. And I think that that's where the Rams defense, because they can't motion around, they can't do that kind of stuff, it makes their defense a lot less good than it normally is in a neutral situation, which is an amazing defense.
Well, speaking of, this is why it's important that blitz stat is important. The Bucs don't have anyone that can match up with Cooper Kupp either. But they play one less person in coverage on 50% of their plays. So like, yeah, I don't have anyone that can match up with Cooper Kupp, but if I have an extra player playing in coverage, that's a huge benefit, and
Right.
that is what the Niners will have going in their favor. I would, very much looking forward to the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay father-son storyline that will go on in this game. I think it's gonna be great. I hope that they have like Aaron Andrews do a special on it. Like talk to both of them and be like, hey Sean, so like what's it like, playing against your dad at home? What's that? What's the dynamic when you go home? Is gonna put you on timeout? Like what's the deal?
What's the nepotism here with your son coaching another team?
Yeah. But I am really excited to see what Kyle Shanahan does. I think my take here would be that, look, okay, you're in this game. You're one win away from the Super Bowl. Deebo Samuel, I know, is a little banged up. I would expect some extra creativity with Deebo in this game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what else do you have to lose? I mean, because this is the thing. This is also why this is a narrative-driven thing, but I do believe it. This is the Niners' last hurrah for a little bit, isn't it? Like, you got to think, not the last hurrah for...
Stop. You stop it.
I don't mean it that way, but what I mean is this is the last time Jimmy G's starting for this team, probably, right? This is, it's not Deebo's last time. It's not Kittle's last time.
I don't know.
Trent Williams isn't getting all that much younger. Like this is a team that knows that a lot of shit's got to go right for them to be in the NFC title game, right? Mm-hmm. This is exactly what we talked about in the forecast, where in the last 11 years, 5 years, the Niners have made the NFC Championship game, and 5 years they failed to win 7 games, right? I think the kitchen sink is going to be thrown out.
I agree. By
Shanahan more than McVay. And the other thing I
Shanahan's
believe,
kitchen sink has more things in it.
But the other thing I truly believe is that McVay also doesn't want to throw the kitchen sink with Stafford. Stafford is a little...
Stafford's good enough to win on his own.
That and Stafford... There's some interception stuff with him, right? And
I am looking at tickets right now. I haven't totally decided if I'm going or not. I'm leaning towards not, just because if I do all that and they lose, it'll be a little rough for me. But it's interesting. The resale market, there are a ton of tickets. So we're talking about, like, last time we were there, the Niners were there. 75% Niners fans. So the question is, like, will Niners fans be able to buy these tickets? There are like only a handful of sections that aren't available on Vivid Seats right now. You can buy tickets everywhere that you want. So if you're worried that, like, the Rams have bought all the tickets for this game, the Rams fans have, I think you've got another thing coming. I just don't think that's the case. Like, the love for the Rams in Los Angeles, it's just not that strong.
I don't mean to be a dick, but there's a reason they left for St. Louis the first time.
It's a really fair point. Here's the thing about Los Angeles, that if you've lived in Los Angeles, you've been in Los Angeles, people say something, they're like, yeah, I really love that.
Yeah.
And it's like, how much do you love it? Not that much.
Yeah.
Not that freaking much. It's like, I love that band. Do you want to go see them? Nah, I'm good.
2 teams left the city in the same year. The Raiders and the Rams.
So my hypothesis is that, look, and I'll give you a sense of what the prices are. Like, if you want to sit close to the 50-yard line, in the middle deck, like, yeah, you're paying like $3,000 a ticket, $2,000 a ticket. You go towards the end zone, like, you're paying like $1,000 a ticket. You want nosebleeds, they're like $500-$600, without paying the, like, extra, fees that get tacked on at the end. So they're expensive, but they're not that expensive. They're not prohibitive to a team. And this is my point, that actually their fans give a fuck.
Well, and let's not be socioeconomically, like, San Francisco.
Yeah, they can afford that. Yeah, they can afford it.
Yeah, more than maybe people, like, I don't know. Well, per capita, a person from the Bay Area makes more than a person.
Yeah, because what they can do is, if you have a 300 square foot place in San Francisco, you can Airbnb it for enough to pay for your ticket, and then you can.
Well, that's where Airbnb originated, right?
Exactly.
Like, at a design conference.
But so I do think that I do believe that it will be.
You heard about what happened back in the day, right? So when the Raiders played in the Coliseum, they used to cover up like a third of the Coliseum because they could never sell it out.
Right.
And there was one year where the Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl with Jimmy Johnson and Troy Aikman and all them. And that was the one game that the Raiders uncovered the Coliseum because that was how they filled it out. Like these are problems that have been persistent in the Los Angeles football market for a long time.
So I think we're aligned there on San Francisco plus 3.5. I actually like San Francisco money line, to be perfectly honest with you. I have bet the San Francisco money line in each of the playoff games so far.
Here's a question that I have, and I want
it's plus 153, by the way.
Yeah. Here's the question I have. Team total. See if it's Wednesday, so sometimes you don't get a team total. Let me go to DraftKings Sportsbook here because I'm not seeing it on Pinnacle, but like you can get a secondary because I think like if you like Niners, you like total, maybe the team total could be something you like. So let me click on this. By the way, Niners are minus 115 at plus 3.5 on DraftKings. So I don't know. They don't have. It's weird.
Don't have team totals up there?
Yeah, maybe. Let me look at another book here. Team total.
Well, you find those, and we decide on our lock of the week.
That's what I'm honing in
yes,
on.
I will.
Also, the internet here is kind of...
I will remind you all that if you would like this big game, it's only a couple weeks away, and if you want the ultimate game day feast, go to westernsouthern.com/feast. And all you have to do is actually something that's kind of fun. You get to ask Chris Collinsworth a question, and by doing so at westernsouthern.com/feast, you will be entered to win a $2,500 catered big game feast. I keep trying to say Super Bowl, and I keep stopping myself and whatever. And there it is. I said it. So ask Chris anything, something about Al, Sunday Night Football, maybe if he thinks Sean Payton is a good fit for the Amazon booth, whatever. And Chris will answer the best questions on his podcast, which you can watch on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So go to westernsouthern.com/feast, enter, watch, win.
So the team total is 21 on the nuts, minus 110.
I like that. That's a good one. I like that as well.
21.5 would be tough, but you do get like the push probability there a little bit.
Okay, so
here's
lock
another
of the
one
week options. Lock of the week options that we've talked about. We have Cincy plus 7. We have under 54.5 in Bengals Chiefs. We have San Francisco plus 3.5. We have over 46.5 in Niners Rams. We've got player prop options, and we've got your team total.
Here's another one that you might want to think about too, because this is weird, but you do see these all the time. First half, Niners are plus 3, minus 115.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So people, is this an overreaction to the way the Niners have played the last 2 of the last 3 games? They got out in front of Dallas, but like Niners kind of sucked in the first half. Mm-hmm. Rams especially sucked in the first half.
I like that a lot.
Niners plus 3 first half, minus 115.
That's a good one. Man, I do feel like we're arriving at something Niners Rams. I always have a little bit of trouble with the first half because the incentive to win the game isn't there. Mm-hmm. And so, like Shanahan is going to kneel it down if, Mm-hmm. Same thing with the sorry, not the same thing with the team total. I don't know.
So the team total first half for the Niners, let me pull this back up. It's going to be in that like 9.5 range.
Yeah.
So that's another thought too. If you think that they're not going to have to settle for field goals and stuff.
Man, I don't know.
Yeah, first half Niners are not over 9.5, minus 130. Actually, on this offshore book, Niners plus 3 first half is minus 110.
Yeah, I mean that's a no-brainer. The line for the game is 3.5. Like,
it just is making inferences about Jimmy G's come from behind. Look at this. If you think Jimmy G's more of a come from behind quarterback than he is a play from ahead quarterback, I don't know what to tell you. You are overreacting to the last like 3 weeks.
Well, you've clearly been talking to a lot of single ladies out there.
By the way, it's a family show. So I hate to ding on other people, but on the Athletic Football Podcast, our friend Mitchell Schwartz, who gives a fuck that Jimmy G has the third highest EPA since 2017? You can't watch football during that and think he's one of the best QBs in the NFL. I'll tell you who gives a fuck. The scoreboard. The fact that the Niners are in their second NFC title game in the last 3 years. This drives me up a wall. This whole the results of the games matter. Like whether or not you move the ball on offense, that matters. Like I don't care if you don't like how it looks. I don't care. And I get we don't he doesn't get a trophy for if he wins a Super Bowl, he doesn't get a trophy for was a good quarterback while winning a Super Bowl. He just wins a Super Bowl. And if the Niners win that way, right? It drives me crazy. Sorry, that was a rant. I'm taking Niners.
Let's just roll with the Niners.
Yeah, Niners +3 first half,
and the whole game. Just bet them
all.
Niners. You're gonna bet them all this week. Go Niners. That was our podcast. We will be back on Sunday night in some capacity. We're gonna figure out the best way to do that with Eric in Kansas City
and you in LA.
We'll see. We'll see about that. Maybe I'll be here live going crazy. Anyways, we love you all. Thanks for hanging out. Peace.